Number 6 story would be that of the GE0 strike. And in tying with that, the raising of tuition, the salaries of administrators and faculty or staff being published in the DI. We have the Illinois Promise, which was not necessarily promised all the way through. We found out that was a false promise, as I suppose we should say, along with the TAs within the chemistry department, or within the sciences, who are undergraduates gathering together and sort of rallying with the graduate-undergraduate alliance. We also had the MAPS grants, some of those budget cuts, and so a lot of financing issues associated with the university. The university is still yet to come to grips with the big budget lapses, and I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of innovation when it comes to mechanisms to produce capital and monetary gain for this institution. We have a lot of intelligent scholars here. Sometimes instead of funding departments and specific projects, perhaps it's better to do $25,000 competition when the best and brightest of this university can compete head to head for the straight up cash that you so often make us aware that's what you're after, to come up with the best ideas for tomorrow. And now they do transpire here at the University of Illinois, but I think in order to meet this budget gap and instead of constantly cutting things, we need to produce more projects like this, which garner more attention for university, which increase, the monetary success and gain of, with our own community, and at the same time bring, we more innovative. It's more creative. We're doing an environment where we're trying to produce and be the leaders and create, brand new solutions. And so I think moving forward, that's something we really need to focus on. So folks wanted me to mention that, and the huge success of the GEO and gathering all the TAs to strike and putting the university to a halt in essence and forcing them to get a contract. They had been working for some time without a guarantee of a contract. University continually stalled them, used various diverting tactics to sort of minimalize them and portray them in the media as if they were being stalwarts, when in fact they were being asked to work without guarantee of employment. So that's something very difficult for people who have families, who have people who they want to support. And so that was another big issue people wanted to mention. And obviously, I personally say, the students are the consumers and the producers of the products, so we should not be having the price raised on us. If anything, the faculty, the staff, other people should be taking budget cuts. And I think that's the appropriate way to lead by example at this university, rather than, deferring the decision and the responsibility onto, again, the product and the consumer. Another issue I'd like to talk about would be number 5, which would be healthcare reform. Healthcare reform was passed very recently, March of 2010. Barack Obama and the Democrats were able to lobby together both the House and the Senate to pass legislation, which will be taking effect up some of the early components, I believe, in 2011, but more components in 2014. Obviously, a huge success for that political party. But to be quite frank with folks out there, I know I'm being sinister, millions upon millions. I think it was 36 million individuals more will be covered now as a result of this legislation. People with pre-existing conditions will be able to get, health coverage. They'll be able to get other policies being enacted like insurance without being, premiums won't necessarily, they may be necessarily targeted, but they won't be denied services, which is very important. As a future physician, I always say preventative medicine and preventative care is the key to reducing the cost, for reducing a healthier society. And the way that we do that is encouraging people to go to the doctor early, before things reach to end stage failure. And the only true, carrot that we can put in front of people to get closer to that, in my opinion, is universal health care. Because that removes the thought. I don't know how many times in my life, and I don't mean to try to sour people, but how many times in my life I thought, I don't want to go to the doctor because it's going to cost money. I don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm concerned that there's, X, Y, Z, and it's like, I don't mean to be trying to judge up emotions on people like that, trying to sob story, but to be quite frank, we want people to go to the doctor because it's cheaper for us to pay for them when it's not end stage care. When somebody's like, kidney failure or end stage disease where they're going to need all these machines, all these operations just to basically make their lives manageable. We'll treat symptoms rather than the disease. And in order to avoid having so many people flood our emergency departments, increase in the number of malpractice suits, we need to ensure that people are going again before these horrible conditions sort of promulgate. So that was issue number 5. I said it was a great thing that it passed, but it wasn't enough for me, man. We need universal health care. We need a public option. We need everyone to be able to be covered. We don't want people just being denied because of care. I can go on a long tangent on that, but that was story number 5 that I wanted to mention for folks. Story number 4 had a lot to do with sort of, I would say, a little racial tension or racial offices, ethnic offices, perhaps you could say, within the University of Illinois. The Office of Inclusion and Intercultural Relations La Casa, La Carta. These are sort of topics people wanted me to talk about. Ana Gonzalez. And so I've had a couple of tiffs with individuals and parties from those respective offices and organizations. And I don't understand these people, to be quite frank. And people did want me to mention it. I think more so because of the anniversary of the La Casa, also because the cultural houses are currently being, in many regards, threatened in terms of their position and legitimacy with the potential movement that's going to transpire of, in essence, 13 organizational units into one condensed multi-unit facility, as I believe what they're calling it, even though it's really just a cultural center. I mean, when you put all the dark skin or all the others within one space, and it's just like, this isn't the multicultural center, is it? And so all these things, situations, and I keep thinking of like, why can't we talk about the real issues? The real issues are retention, recruitment, ensuring that there's like a path to producing, permanent faculty on a tenure track, who are those respective populations. It shouldn't be constantly, rallying people together to maintain the few mechanisms of support that are considered legitimate upon, among students. Why is La Casa in question? Why? I mean, even though I have problems with some of the people in La Casa, I won't mention you out by name just yet. Maybe we'll put a graphic up on the screen perhaps and just better identify you. And one thing I would like to talk about outside of all the tension with the situation with Ana Gonzalez, and I was muted by La Carta. In essence, I submitted a story describing my situation, what I experienced, completely factual. I wasn't hateful in it. I wasn't ignorant within it. I stayed as far away from, pointing fingers and being, ignorant in any regard. But because my article, I guess, was controversial in their regard, they told me that the title, "To Be or Not to Be a House Slave," was a little what might offend African Americans or black people. And nobody who I've met who's African American or black told me anything like that. So I'm gonna have to hold fast on that person who told me that. But it was muted. My voice was muted in that avenue that I attempted to pursue. And I was just like, why, man? I'm here trying to make things better. Like, why are you trying to mute me? That's just going to amplify my voice in any way, I was trying to use, the Latino publication to convey a situation about Latinos and how to, better the situation for us, and just depicting my situation in the hopes that someone else wouldn't have to experience it. And then you muted it. Why? I'm saying, what's that about? And I don't know how you benefit from that or how we benefit from that, but thanks for doing that. Story number 3 that I'd like to discuss revolves around immigration, xenophobia, with the recent Arizona law, which was enacted, the ethnic studies, ban, which was implemented by a Republican House, or I can't recall what party, but it was definitely Republican legislators within Arizona who passed those bills. And I started to think about, I was like, again, why are you trying to make me upset? Like, what's going on here? There's not a lot of Latinos who family members or people that we know who who we love or we care about, or even people who are not Latino who have the same issue. Immigration is a huge issue. There are many things we need to do in order to ensure, that we actually address the issues we care about, such as security. Okay, there are many communities that come from Canada that attempt to kill us, that have more, ease of avenues of travel and arrival through here to the U.S. We need to be more vigilant on all different angles. But the fact that we continually go and focus in on the U.S.-Mexico border makes it hard for us to have, to focus on the commonalities and the things that we do want to accomplish, right? Because, obviously at some point we gotta protect ourselves and draw lines or whatever, in the hopes of enjoying, the beautiful things that we do have here. But we can't be hateful and disrespectful to the people who are here within our own communities, the people who sit shoulder to shoulder with us at different, classrooms, within our, respective, job places, etc. So it's like, when you do something like this and you create legislation like that, you put in writing and you let history know and look at you and let them know that you're hateful, that you don't want people here that don't look like you. And a lot of people are boycotting it, and rightfully so, I feel, because Arizona has no place passing things like that. It creates racial tension. It doesn't solve homeland. It doesn't augment, homeland security. It doesn't improve anything. It creates racial tension, and in many ways also class tension. That's just codifying hate, in my opinion. And so that needs to be banned, or Arizona events and all those things hopefully get banned. Hopefully the university divests from Arizona, and we make that very clear to the respective administrators that is our position on that. So that's another situation I want to talk about. Story number 2 was that of an ongoing situation since the Friday before Columbus Day weekend of 2009 in October. Kejuan Carrington was shot and killed on 906 West Vine Street by Champaign officer Norbitz. Basically killed out there on answering a call. An attempted burglary was reported in. Horrible situation. His friend who was coming home early from school with was being held on a resisting arrest, but originally charged with attempted burglary. The charges were dropped, and subsequently resisting arrest charges were brought against the youth. And it was just one of those situations where I was like, what are you going to say? This is just the most current chapter of race relations gone awry within the Champaign-Urbana community. The most latest story we can talk about, within Champaign and Urbana that, very much so exemplifies the dynamic here amongst the community, amongst the opinion and views, I feel, of the university towards the African-American, homegrown community. It's very acceptable to that youth, in my opinion, the way it was portrayed, for him to have been killed. And it was also very acceptable for his friend to be persecuted as well by basically the law, and it's unfortunate. Fortunately, there were people who were being vigilant, like the CU Citizens for Peace and Justice, also the Planners Network, who are being big advocates and trying to provide some sort of support for the family, because really there is once you lose a family member to a situation like that, in any sort of tragic situation, you always feel that pain, and you always, there's nothing that can, cure that, no Band-Aid to resolve that. But, time and support from people, letting them know that what they think was right, what was wrong in that particular context, hopefully provide some ailment, but not complete cure. So that's been a big story and I've already said it many times that I feel that